Hi, welcome back to another episode of Real-World Serverless, a podcast where I speak with real-world practitioners and get their stories from the trenches. Today, I'm joined by Hieu Do, who is a solution architect at the FPT Software in Vietnam. So I was recently reading about your experience running a hotel booking application with serverless services, and you were running it for just 80 cents per month. So I thought it was a really interesting story. And I wanted to bring Hugh on the show to tell us all about his story and how he got to where he is right now. Hey, man, welcome to the show.
Yes. Thank you, Jan, for having me today, and greeting to the listeners of the Real-World Serverless podcast. So yes, I'm Hieu Do, and my day job is solution architect at FPT Software Vietnam. But the main focus today is about my side project of that hotel booking application. So last week, I wrote a post on LinkedIn about running this hotel booking application entirely on AWS serverless architecture for 0.8 dollars a month for 12 months. And it got a lot of attention, more than 600 reactions and 50K impressions on LinkedIn. So I'm very honored to be invited to this podcast to talk about this, I think, really small experience of building a real world hotel booking application on serverless technology entirely.
Yeah, I think what's really interesting to me about this article is that it is this good example for why startups should build their applications on serverless. At least to start there, because as a startup, you're building something new. You don't know how many users you're going to have, so you want to build something that's really cost efficient. But at the same time, if you do find some success, you do find the market fit. You also need to be able to scale quickly and efficiently, and you still need to worry about building systems that is highly redundant, so that you have multi-AZ redundancy. And those are the sort of things that you get with serverless technologies when you're using Lambda, API Gateway, DynamoDB, where sure, when you don't have users, you're not going to pay anything. You're going to pay very little. But when you do need to scale, they have that built-in scalability, and also everything is multi-AZ out of the box. So you have that built-in redundancy as well. So you kind of give you this perfect launch pad to build a new business. And I think when I was reading your story, I thought, okay, yeah, this is the perfect reason why more startups should be starting with serverless by default. Maybe once they get really popular, they got lots of traffic, then they need to optimize the costs at highest scale, so they can move them to containers where you're paying for uptime, but you've got stable traffic at that point already. But when you're starting out, it just doesn't make sense to go to containers right
Right,
away.
right. So I just want to add that at the time I'm doing this hotel booking application, we already had a working CMS system on Wix.com and a PMS system using a local provider. So we see that the traffic is around 3,000 daily users. So that normally would this core ratio from using serverless because we are having normal traffic. But I think that's not the case in our use case, because if you look at it, 3,000 daily users, which turn into requests per second, is not a lot. So the request per second is only single digit. So it's still a perfect use case for serverless. Uh, I think that only when you get to hundreds or thousands of requests per second, then you start considering to move to a stateful container or microservices. But if you start really small, like my hotel booking application, then if you're familiar with serverless or want to try a new technology, serverless technology, then just go for it. I think that's the perfect use case for starting small with serverless.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we are totally in agreement there. So, do you want to bring up your blog post so that for people that are viewing watching this on the YouTube, they know what we're talking about, and then we can maybe dive into the story, how you got started. And for folks who are listening on the podcast, on the Spotify and other platforms, we'll also you can also find the link to the article that we're looking at right now in the description below as well.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
So this is the article that you were talking about how you were running this hotel booking application for 12 months on about 80 cents per month. So I guess before we get into it, tell us a story. I mean, how you got started with building this application? Because you said that you already had the CMS and PMS as well. Why build something new? Why build something yourself?
Yes. So it's so so I firstly just want to share that I learned about serverless 4 years ago. So long before I actually started building this application. So that was when I was in Belgium, learning about working with another client at my current company. So I learned all about AWS Lambda, DynamoDB 4 years ago, and last year I had the chance to experiment with Lambda in our hotel business. So the story is that we have, like you mentioned, we already had a CMS, a PMS. So normally that's enough for running a hotel booking website. But the problem is our hotel started to need to receive hourly booking. So normally on booking.com or hotel.com, you're only able to book on a per day, right? So check in and check out per day. But our hotel business is a local business, so we need to book by hourly rate, and we need to integrate with the local PMS provider. So just at that time, we asked a lot of vendors. So vendors who normally do hotel booking website by using WordPress or similar application, they gave up on integrating with the local PMS provider because there's no API endpoints for third parties. So that's why I jump in to support my friend who owns the hotel business, and I saw that there's a lot of technical difficulties when integrating with the PMS. So I think that the integration is definitely a good use case for Lambda. So I think that why don't we use Lambda for the rest of the application to see how it goes. So it started as an experiment. So I designed the application with using yes.
Okay, sorry, I want to just pause for a sec because many people who hasn't worked in the hotel industry probably don't know what the PMS is. So a PMS is a hotel property management system,
Yes.
right? Based on my cursory
Yes.
reading. Okay.
Yes.
So what's the challenge with integrating with a PMS that requires you to do some custom development?
So the PMS have no API endpoints. So normally, if you have a client ID and client secret that is provided by the PMS software, then you can integrate easily via API calls. But the problem is this PMS provider, they have no such thing. So that's why we need to be imaginative, so to be inventive uh, and invent our own integration system with the local PMS, because at that point, 100% of our revenue is through walking to our hotels and check-in via the PMS software, and we want to transform digitally to move online and to the web. So we started thinking about integrating with that PMS, and that's where we hit the roadblock. But using Lambda could solve that.
Okay, sounds good. So yeah, in that case, let's go into this then. So you got this you build your system starting with the integration, but then also you build the entire. Because I saw later on in the article,
Yes.
you've got API gateway, you've got quite a few other things there as well. And I'm
Yes.
guessing the website itself, you build your whole website, the single page application that you're hosting out of S3 and CloudFront.
Yes. So at the beginning, so this is our current architecture. So a lot of people saw that and assume this is the starting point, but it's not, and they assume it's over engineered for a simple hotel booking application. But at the beginning, there's only one booking API and one booking website via CloudFront. So it's very small and tiny, and similar to a monolithic application. So after 12 months, as we add more features, so this is the current architecture, what it looks like today. So we have the booking API, booking website is still the same, still intact, as even though we added a lot of other components. So we have an admin API for our product team to manage the websites. The admin is the same, deployed via Cloudflare and S3, and we also have integrations with our PMS via Lambda and using Puppeteer and Chromium on Lambda layer. And then we added more and more services. We need to add especially NewRelic Lambda layer, where we are able to monitor the whole production hotel booking application and set up errors and monitoring and alerts for our hotel booking application. So it just adding more and more system after 12 months. So this is what it currently looks like today.
Yes, talking about monitoring, because one of the things that came up a lot in this discussion was CloudWatch. Obviously, CloudWatch, for anyone who's familiar with serverless technologies on AWS or just AWS in general, CloudWatch is usually one of the top 3 billing items on AWS bill, regardless the size of your application. So even your example here, you're paying 82 cents a month. It still accounts for like 30, 40, maybe even 50% of your bills per month. And then in October, it went to 0. And I guess that's because you started to use the Lambda layer from NewRelic to shift all of your telemetry to NewRelic instead. And you're using NewRelic's free tier so that you can use a lot of these features without. Okay.
Right. So it's I found it very funny because I didn't notice it back then. So I've always thought that API gateway is my top billing cost for our architecture. But when I look back at the commenters and your post, I saw it's actually CloudWatch. So we added NewRelic on April 2023, and that's where the CloudWatch bills started rising. So even for 80 cents per month, CloudWatch is taking like 60% in April 2023. So that's a lot. And the problem is, even though we use NewRelic back then, NewRelic keeps polling for CloudWatch metrics. So every 1 hour, so it can poll from 5 minutes to 1 hour. So I set it at 1 hour, and for only Asia Pacific is a reason, which is where I'm based in. So even then, it's still costing a lot compared to the whole architecture. So I used that same system, the NewRelic system, for 6 months, but until October, I was able to optimize and move entirely to NewRelic by using AWS Lambda layer. So NewRelic provide an integration layer for Lambda, and then they also provide custom checking capability. So we are able to add custom attributes to every Lambda invocation. So say that assume that we want to monitor Lambda invocation by hotel ID or reservation ID. NewRelic custom attribute can do that, and for every invocation. So by using that tracing capability of NewRelic and not dependent on CloudWatch metrics, logs, and alert monitoring anymore, we move the entire monitoring system to NewRelic. So I can briefly share the NewRelic dashboard that we are using.
Before we get into that, though, I want to also just make sure I understand what you did in October. You said you're using Lambda layers, but I guess is that the reason why you were seeing some of the CloudWatch costs before was because of the polling?
Yes.
So once you move into Lambda layers, did you at that point just tell NewRelic to stop polling from Cloud? Okay, right. Yeah. So you tell NewRelic to don't poll anything from CloudWatch, because normally NewRelic is going to poll your CloudWatch for the metrics and for the logs. So I guess in this case, because you're using Lambda layers and you're using it as a Lambda extension, is that correct?
Yes, it's a Lambda layer extension. Yes.
Yeah, right. Okay. So, so for those who are listening and are not familiar with Lambda extensions and Lambda layers, the way it works is that you can essentially run a Lambda extension like a sidecar to your main process that's running your application, that's running your code, and what you can also do with the telemetry API that was released, I think about a year and a half ago, is that you can actually inside the extension poll like a local endpoint that's inside the execution environment of your Lambda functions for the telemetry about your about your function invocation, as well as about your logs as well, so that within that Lambda layer, that extension, NewRelic is able to then write some code to basically just send all this telemetry data to their own backend, so that you can sidestep going through CloudWatch first before you can then forward them to to NewRelic. And I guess in this case, that did you also disable the Lambda functions permission to write to CloudWatch as well, so that you're not so that because you're sending everything to NewRelic already.
Yeah, but well, I still leave that as a two-way doors because I just want to show that if we optimize enough, there's no more CloudWatch cost. But it's also there's always pros and cons. So I think that in the future I can enable that route back to integrate NewRelic with Lambda, but just want to show that even without CloudWatch, we are still able to monitor everything on NewRelic. But I still leave that as a two-way door to go back to maybe in the future to keep polling or integrating with CloudWatch and Magic Stream NewRelic to integrate with NewRelic. But I mean, not everyone is gonna save 60 cents of their monthly operation. But I just want to show that by going all in into cloud cost optimization to show people that what we can achieve.
Yeah, so and I guess in this case, because most of your CloudWatch cost was associated with the polling. So once you stop the polling, you're able to remove all the CloudWatch costs in
Yes,
October anyway.
exactly. Yes.
Yeah. And I think for some of my customers in the past, where we've done the same thing, where we're using Lambda extensions via Lambda and the Lambda layers to ship all the telemetry data to some third party, and they actually also disable Lambda's permission as well, so that because a lot of for most of them, the bulk of the CloudWatch cost is not from the polling, but it's from actually the logs, ingestion cost from the Lambda function, and for the telemetry, the custom metrics and things like that. So for them, it makes more sense to also disable the permission so that you don't pay for that ingestion cost in CloudWatch.
Yeah.
But I guess in your case, now they've disabled the polling, everything's zero already for CloudWatch.
Yeah, because I'm not forwarding the logs to NewRelic, so I don't have to do that. So because I think that for logging, then we can already see everything in CloudWatch. So there's no reason to forward it to another third party because I'm not using it. So what I'm trying to do is, if we are not using it, then don't do it, and it can save costs. Because for production monitoring, then metrics, alerts, and dashboard is the three things that I'm using. And only when I'm debugging, that I go to CloudWatch logs. But before that, I've always used metrics, alerts, and dashboard.
Okay, right. So sorry, I interrupted you earlier. You were going to show us your NewRelic dashboard so that so we can see the stuff that you're polling from. Well, you're sending from.
Right.
From Lambda. Okay.
So this is a custom NewRelic dashboard, and yeah, I mean it's pretty normal because it's monitoring the durations and the invocations as well as the error rates, but also the tracing, all the tracing capabilities and all the custom attributes that we can monitor with NewRelic. So I also use these custom tracing attributes to set up alert and monitoring, and that's that's basically it.
So on the left here, you've got the invocations by hotel. So this is what you're talking about earlier, right? That you were using the
custom
attributes. Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay. So I guess if we were to do this in CloudWatch, you would be using different dimensions. You're using a hotel name or ID as a dimension, so that you have different. You'll be able to segregate the metrics for different hotels.
Yeah, I actually don't know because I haven't used CloudWatch that much at all. Because I think that's why I don't even realize that CloudWatch is so expensive, because I have never used it. So that's
Right.
funny.
Okay. And when we talk about tracing as well, so does the NewRelic also give you distributed tracing similar
Yes.
to what you get with X-ray as well?
Right. So I also don't use X-ray because NewRelic have all that capabilities. So even though we are using the standard plan for 7-day data retention, but I think that's good enough for real-time monitoring. So yes, NewRelic have very good tracing capability. So you can see that we can even divide the call durations into third-party services. So we have the PMS is the most expensive calls, and then we have all the other AWS services. So NewRelic is capable of doing everything that I think X-Ray provide. Yes, so it's more
Do they
than
have
enough
like
for us.
a distributed tracing view where you
Yes,
can see the transaction like for a particular request?
they do. Yes.
Okay.
So,
Do
but
you,
yes, but that was gone when I disable disable the polling. Yes, but it's just a bit unnecessary because I don't think that Neuralink needs polling for that distributed tracing capability. But somehow they tie that distributed tracing capability to matrix polling, which is very uh,
interesting.
yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know why, but that's why I think that I still keep a two-way door to enable it again to get those advanced feature of Neuralink, because even though it's cost a little amount of money in CloudWatch polling, but yeah, but in the future, if Neuralink support distributed tracing without polling, then I will disable CloudWatch permanently. But right now, it's still
Okay.
needed.
Okay, makes sense. So let's maybe go back to the system you actually built. One of the things that really piqued my interest earlier was the fact that you're hosting your front end in the S3 and the serving it out of CloudFront, which is common practice. But how are you actually building the front end and hosting it? Are you just hosting it yourself using S3, or are you using Amplify?
Oh, just S3 and CloudFront. So I haven't actually used Amplify at all. So it's a normal React web application. So it's a static website deployed in S3 and CloudFront. And I also set up CloudFront not only as a file and CDN routing, but also CloudFront also manage the request to API gateway. So to avoid cross-site origin, CORS. So because I realized that by doing that, I can halve the cost of API gateway, because before that, every call to API gateway costs extra one options called because of cross-site origins, so CORS. So I found out that CloudFront can actually forward the request to API gateway and avoid that issue. So yes, CloudFront for a static React application and also as a forward to API gateway.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So I guess it's not so much the CloudFront but that's a really good point about if you use the same domain, then you avoid the option call to
Yes.
for the cross site for the course. But I guess it's not really CloudFront per se. But it's the same domain. In API Gateway, you can also just create a custom domain name. I guess if you're using a regional API, then you're going to have to put them into CloudFront anyway. Is that what you've done? You've got a regional API, and then you create a custom domain name, which you then take the CloudFront distribution, the URL that you get once you created a custom domain name into your CloudFront distribution.
Yeah. So it's I add a custom domain to CloudFront, but Yeah, for observability, every API gateway still have their own domain name, just for observability, because it's easier to query by a custom API gateway domain name than the ID itself, because ID can is hard to remember.
Yeah, that's not what I meant. I meant, are you using API Gateway's custom domain name sort of feature?
I mean, our API gateway have a custom domain names as well in Southeast Asia, but CloudFront is forwarding the request to API gateway as well.
Okay, so maybe let me try to rephrase the question. Then, is your API, the API gateway you've got there, is that a regional API or is it an edge optimized API?
It's a regional API.
Okay. Because normally the way you do this custom domain names with a regional API is you first create the custom domain name in API gateway.
Yes.
Before that, you have to create the certificate in the in the AC in the certificate manager.
Yes.
And then you create a custom domain name in API gateway, and then you take there's like a CloudFront distribution URL that gets generated at that point, and then you put into CloudFront at that.
Yes. Exactly.
Okay, right, gotcha. Okay, yeah, that's the way they normally set up. Okay, so and guess that's the reason for that is because now you can save that additional option call for every customer.
Right, and you mentioned that as a very normal thing, very standard thing, but I didn't know about that at all, because all I learned about serverless is through reading documentation, and no one mentioned about that to me. So it's new to me, and it's actually costing my business twice the money needed for API gateway for some time. So yeah.
Right, I see. Yeah, I guess that shows up in the graph as well. That the API gateway is still now is still the really big part of your bill.
Yeah. So after I know about that, I was able to halve the cost of API gateway. It's a simple mistake, but I don't know everything about serverless.
Yeah, but that's something that I think most of us don't really look at. We don't really look at the API gateway's cost breakdown and realize, right, that's half of that is the option costs.
Yes, it costs only like 50 cents per month. So you said you thought that it was optimized, but when I look at it, it wasn't enough, because Lambda invocations is 200K per month, but API gateway invocation is 500K. So there's something going on that I don't know about. So even though it's very optimized already, but when I look into it carefully, I saw still rooms for optimization. So that's interesting to me, and I didn't know all about this upfront.
Yeah, that's fine. I think doing is the best way to learn. By doing, you start to learn about these things. And I saw in your cost in your bill that the cost of API gateway has gone up from since April, and I'm guessing that's just because of the traffic has gone up.
Yes.
Not because of
Yeah, it's the traffic. Yes.
Okay. All right. So you also mentioned earlier that the reason for you to start doing this was to integrate with the PMS in the first place. So how do you, in that case, integrate with the PMS if there's no API? How do you use Lambda to do that?
So actually the PMS. So we had to use Puppeteer in Chromium. So the way we think about it, so our hotel reception.
Sorry, so in this case, what's Puppeteer?
So Puppeteer is the Node.js library used to control automate Chromium, just like Selenium. So Selenium is for automation testing, but Puppeteer is for automating in browser.
Okay, so you kind of like you're kind of controlling like a headless browser to go to this website.
Exactly.
Okay, gotcha. Because it doesn't have an API. All right.
Yes. So the way we think about it is the PMS provider allows our hotel staff to log into their website and check in and check out. So we think that by automating the browser to do that with username and password, we can achieve the same. So that's where the Lambda integration with PMS comes from, and we use Puppeteer as a tool for browser automation. And in order to run Puppeteer on Lambda, there's a library called Chromium on AWS Lambda layer. So also use the same layer extension as NewRelic, but now with Chromium. So
I'm not familiar with it. Can you maybe, is it Chromium? Chromium
Chromium,
Lambda layer? Okay.
yes. So it's
Okay.
58 megabytes. So normally that's not good for a Puppeteer package. A Lambda package. But by providing it as a Lambda layer, then it just optimizes a lot of Lambda code stack, and we can use it for browser automation.
It actually wouldn't, because if you need to load it, it was the time is not. I think there may be some impact, some small impact, because of it's not something that you have to load from the package, but you still get mounted to the file system. So there may be some small improvement, but probably not a huge amount. But I'll be quite interested to see the difference. The most of the time is when you actually need to initialize the Puppeteer. But also, I guess in this case, you're integrating with a PMS. That's like a background process, right? It's not a user-facing thing.
So the Puppeteer, by using Puppeteer, we are able to get the SSO access token for the PMS. So we later use that access token to do HTTP API call. So
okay.
Yeah.
So I think I understand now. So the Puppeteer and the Chromium is needed just so that you can get the access token.
Yes.
And then you can then in your So I guess in this case, you how often does this Puppeteer Lambda run?
So once a month. So normally
once a month. Okay.
Yeah. So it's a way that we are using to automate our integrations with the PMS.
Okay. Right. So you're running it once every month, and so they can get a new access token that's valid for the next month. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So I guess in this case, it doesn't really matter the code starts, because this is like a background thing. No one's gonna see how long it takes anyway.
And even the cost is not doesn't matter, because even though we run Puppeteer in 2 GB Lambda, but it only runs once a month, so it doesn't matter the cost.
Right. Gotcha. Okay, yeah, that's kind of unfortunate. You have to do this just so that you can get an access token.
It happens in reality. Yeah, you just go with it and be as creative as possible to make your hotel business run, right?
Yeah, you just have to do what you have to do, right?
Yes.
and I guess so if they don't have an API, so once you've got access token, are you just using the API? I guess once you've got access token, you're still calling the API at runtime when someone's trying to make a booking.
Yes.
So
yes.
How does that work?
So as I said from the beginning, what we are trying to do is simulate how a normal person would work in the browser as a hotel staff. So actually we just record the API calls in the browser when a hotel staff is checking in and checking out guests in the PMS system, and we do exactly the same with Lambda, except for the login part where we had to do with Puppeteer. But everything,
right?
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay, so basically this PMS has like a private internal API.
Yes.
There's no sort of like a third party business to business API. So you kind of have to just record what their website is doing in terms of the API that they make, API calls they make to their own backend. But then you need the authentication, you need the access token. So you've got this Lambda to do. Okay, gotcha.
Yes.
That's clever. That's clever.
We have to be creative, and it's proved to be quite successful, because we are able to achieve one thing that people cannot think about, and it's an advantage for our hotel business.
Yeah, I love that. I love that kind of creative problem solving. And so, yeah, you also mentioned here in the article that you're using Vendia's serverless Express.
Oh,
Is
yes.
that is that basically lets you run Express.js inside a Lambda and basically build a monolith, well, a Lambda lift API?
Exactly. It's basically converts your Express application to Lambda handler for API gateway events. So yes, you're correct. And
Okay, gotcha.
I think it's
And
one of the key thing that help us move so fast with Lambda is by using this library. So normally I saw that a lot of people would use serverless framework or AWS SAM or local stars to develop AWS Lambda. But when we found out about serverless Express, so you can just develop a normal Node.js Express application like most developers are used to, and convert it to Lambda and API gateway integrations. So that's just blow my mind. And I've been using it for several years, and it doesn't disappoint me at all compared to serverless framework and AWS SAM. So this is one of the best thing about developing with Lambda that we learn about.
yeah, you can also use the server framework and basically do the same approach as well,
Yeah,
or
but
with SAM. So I think
yeah,
SAM, you can also use the Lambda Power Tools, which has got this ability for you to basically take existing application and basically build a Lambda lift. So you don't have to use this framework to be able to write like a normal Express application and the run in Lambda. You can do the
yeah.
same thing with the server framework. There's
Oh,
also plugins for the server framework that lets you do that as well.
I didn't know about that because I mean I'm a bit lazy, so I don't want to learn another framework like serverless framework or SAM. So I didn't know about that, but I think I can try sometime in the future. But for now, we are using this
I mean, if
serverless.
it's working for you,
Yes,
if it's working for you, then why, well, unless there's something that you're not happy about, why change?
yes.
So I guess, okay, you're using Serverless Express. I've not used it myself. So does it take care of all the deployment and all of that for you as well?
Uh, Not no, actually, it only helps you to convert the API gateway events in Lambda handler to express request. But the deployment, you have to do it by yourself. So that's why another library comes in. So we use another library to auto generate the API the Swagger definition. So yes, we have the library to help us with route definitions in API gateway. And later, when we use AWS CDK, we use the same library to integrate with CDK.
Okay, I want to make sure to understand the process here. So you're writing your application in the Express.js. You're using Serverless Express to turn it into like a Lambda handler. So in terms of the code, and then you have to use Swagger AutoGen to generate a Swagger definition,
Yes,
so that you can from your Express.js application, and then you have to use this. You have to take those and then put them into CDK and use CDK to do the actual deployment.
yes, it's a lot of steps, right? But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
but you need to only do it once because when it's done, then you don't need to worry about those manual steps anymore.
Okay, but if you were to add the new endpoint, what's the process then? Do you have to run the Swag AutoGen again, or and then put it into CDK?
Well, it's part of the build process. So yes, you
Okay,
yeah,
right. Okay, once you've got all of this working in your build process, then
yes,
that's what you meant by do it once. Okay, gotcha.
yes,
Okay. Okay. So right. So now we are, so now that you've got your API, you are building it, you're deploying it as part of a CI/CD, and also I saw you mentioned one of the things that which I thought was quite interesting, was that your cold start time for, I'm guessing you're talking about the APIs here, was 400 milliseconds, and that's not that's without the new Relic Lambda layer. but 800 milliseconds with the Lambda layer.
Yes.
That seems like quite a big jump in terms of your init duration and any ideas of what was happening there?
I'm not sure there, but it's not our biggest concern because we can always provide a warm-up event bridge call to Lambda to optimize that. And we found that the most pressing concern in performance for our application is the calls to our PMS provider and not cold start. So cold start only happens every 10 minutes. So even though I don't know what caused that jump and or what is the normal cold start acceptable cold start metrics, but yeah, that's the how it is for us now.
Okay. Yeah, I'm guessing because you don't have that many users. So do you have many? I mean, if you have a couple thousand users per day, then you probably have a lot of 10-minute gaps where there's nothing. So when a user comes in, the next one is also going to be a cold start. So are you saying that you're using a Lambda warmer to keep those to
Yes.
keep at least one instance of your? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I guess just bear in mind that that is going to work for now when you've got a small number of concurrent executions. Once you've got many more concurrent executions, you probably have to look for some other solution if you find that the latency is not good enough. But I think 400 to 500, 500 milliseconds, that's quite normal for a cold start for Node.js function at least. But I'm just curious about the big jump. Like there's an extra 400 milliseconds just with the new Relic Lambda layer, which I thought it seems quite high.
Yeah, but I cannot do anything about it, right?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So and you also talked about CI/CD with with CDK.
Yes.
So how did you decide on the CDK?
Well, because it's JavaScript, right? You saw that from the beginning, all about tech stack, a JavaScript and TypeScript. So it's one of the reasons to speed up on development because you don't have to learn another language like Terraform, for example. So CDK is like very obvious for me to start to manage our infrastructure as code.
Okay, right. I see. And I guess in this case, you are, were you building it as part of a team, or were you building it just on your own?
So it's a one person job. So I'm still building it for my own now. But in the future, when I add more team members, then we have CI/CD ready using AWS CDK. And even though I'm doing it on my own, we still have several environments, so development, testing, and production. So that's why CDK came in, because you can quickly deploy your whole infrastructure on another AWS account and environment.
Okay, and I'm guessing you've got separate accounts for separate environments.
Yes.
You're following those. Okay, good. It's good that you're following those sort of account organization best practices. Are you also using AWS organizations and the single sign-on to manage access to the accounts?
Not really. So in the beginning, actually, I have one single organization for several accounts. But I realized that it seems that the free tier applies to the organization as a whole instead of separate accounts. So later I separate these accounts at different organizations. So no, for now, no single sign-on yet. But yeah, that's something I can think about.
Is that true? Is that true? The free tiers are. I thought the free tiers are per account. Organization just means that you have one. You have one payer. You're paying all of your bills through the one account. But I thought the free tier is still per account, not at the organization level.
Oh, really? Yeah,
I think so. I think so.
I think I could be mistaken, but I think I last month I saw a jump in DynamoDB usage, so I thought that it was due to that, but maybe I need to try again to see what's the cause there.
I think that, hold on, let's check. Let me check. I think done for because the free tiers they're also different depending on the service. For some service like Lambda, the free tier doesn't expire. Some services their free tier expires after 12 months. So it could be because your service has been running for more than 12 months. So the free tier may have expired for some of the services.
Not DynamoDB, because DynamoDB is forever free like Lambda.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's something I will look into next month. So I try to same organization and see how it goes again.
Yeah, that's worth looking into because I was under the impression that the free tier is applied to the account, not the organization. But I could be wrong there. But organization just means that you have one paying account rather than you pay from individual accounts. You just all of your credit card information is just on the master account, so everything pays through that, as opposed to every single account have to have a credit card.
Yes, so that's definitely one of the things that I would try again next month, and if not, then I raise an AWS ticket.
Sounds good. Okay, yeah, I think that's all the questions I had. It's again, it's a very interesting project. Really, it's really good to see these kind of examples of people building startups using serverless technologies and being able to save money, but also still have that ability to scale and have that redundancy of multi-AZ without having to pay for all these servers in different regions or different AZs that are not doing anything. Is there anything else that you want to sort of mention before we go? Any other sort of side projects and things that you're doing?
So I just want to share that this is very small, but by using serverless or new technologies, trying new technologies like AI or serverless, you start by doing small things. So so I think it's worth it to try serverless in every business and application out there, to try to see if it works, and just try serverless to see if it makes the difference for your use case.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much. So for listeners who are listening, please go and check out Hieu's blog post, which is the link in the description below, and subscribe to his. I guess you're hosting this on the Substack.
Yeah.
So yeah, subscribe to his Substack so that you find out more about how his business is going and other cost optimizations that he's going to find out in the future.
And thank you.
Okay, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much, Hieu.
Thank you very much. Yeah, and
okay. And bye-bye, everyone. Thanks for listening.